Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to allow me to share a little bit with you as far as why I wrote the book, Melt the Ice. As is noted on the cover page, the name Melt the Ice comes from a quote. Sometimes it takes the sun a long time to melt the ice so things can come to the surface. I used to think this meant that we had to uncover our problems and wrestle them to the ground. And now what I realize after years of meeting with people and hearing people's situations and circumstances and experiences and watching what works for people and what doesn't work for people and seeing patterns of not listening to oneself, I decided that the quote, sometimes it takes the sun a long time to melt the ice so things can come to the surface, is actually talking about uncovering the authenticity of who we are, allowing our own strengths to shine, not holding ourselves back, believing in ourselves, but most importantly, learning to follow a part of ourselves that I would identify as intuition. In the book, I kind of categorize it in spirit zone because different people with different religious backgrounds or non-religious backgrounds may want to call it something different. But for the purpose of my explanation right now, I'm going to call it intuition. But far too often we have something inside ourselves that's telling us to take a certain direction in that moment, and we don't listen to that. And there are consequences to that for ourselves, and it contributes greatly in how we manage our mental health care. So as I meet with people and look under every rock possible to look at all the circumstances and situations and angles, biological, psychosocial, family, genetically speaking, and so forth, looking for possible causes and influences in the way a person is feeling and the symptoms that they are presenting with. One of the things that I have discovered seems to be very, very critical and often missing is that ability to listen to one's own intuition. It seems like it's something that we don't talk about enough in our society. So I'm really glad to see that more and more books are being written and more discussions are being held about this importance. I guess it's difficult because we can't put our finger on it. You can't really measure it. And there is the most common concern I always hear is, how will I know if I'm listening to my intuition versus my emotions? And that is the complexity of it. It does take practice to learn how to make that distinction between thoughts and things that are coming from our ego and things that are coming from our emotions versus that spirit zone, our intuition. I also discovered that there seems to be a certain group of people who have a very high propensity toward being very highly intuitive and highly sensitive. And on that note, it's something that they cannot escape from or get away from, yet it does create feelings of anxiety or the weight of depression, or they can just feel very alone and misunderstood in this sensitivity. So it becomes, in my book, I'm seeking to validate those who have this high sensitivity. The word we use for it now is to be highly empathic. I know too, though, that that's becoming kind of a buzzword where people might be running around and saying, hey, I'm an empath. But people know who you are if you're highly empathic, and those people typically are quite quiet about it and are struggling quite often with how to manage that degree of sensitivity. So in this book, I'm seeking to suggest techniques and ways to embrace and appreciate this about oneself, especially if you have experienced traumatic experiences, emotionally abusive experiences, just harshness. And also, if you do struggle with certain degrees of depression and or anxiety that are not fully resolving with other treatment methods, this may be a course of action that could be beneficial. For those of you who choose to purchase the book and give it a chance, I hope you find it helpful.